Welcome to Bonnie's Beat. I'm your host, Bonnie Squires. We're coming to you from the studios of Radnor Studio 21 in beautiful downtown Wayne. And we're also being broadcast into Lower Merion by Comcast. Yay! Anyway, we like to showcase people who are doing interesting things in the community, whether it's politics, religion, academia, charities, arts and culture. And we've got two guests today who do some very interesting jobs at it's now belongs to Drexel University. It's the Academy of Natural Sciences. And I want to introduce Dr. David Velinsky and Joker Greg Cowper. Sorry, I had to throw that in, Greg.
Joker?
Yeah, he's the funny one in this team. And as a matter of fact, Greg Cowper, I thought the name sounded familiar. Tell about your illustrious ancestor.
Bonnie, I think he's an uncle of mine, several great-great-uncles. He was the Poet Laureate of England in 1790 to about 1800, William Henry Cowper.
And I read about him in all my English lit courses at the University of Pennsylvania.
He was a fantastic guy. He ushered in Romanticism. He did some fantastic poems. He co-wrote a whole book called the Olney Hymns with John Newton, who's the Reverend credited with Amazing Grace.
Oh.
So.
As sung by President Obama, correct?
Well, who would have thought? So I'm kind of 7 degrees separated from President Obama.
Right.
That's right.
And Dr. David Velinsky, you've been at the Academy of Natural Sciences for how long?
20 years plus 1 day.
Did they give you a watch for 20 years? Did they give you a dinosaur bone? What did they give you for 20 years at the Academy?
A little pin with a little red mineral in it. That's what I'll get, I guess, probably sometime this year.
What's the little red mineral?
I'm not quite sure. You probably have gotten one too, I think. I don't know exactly what it is, to tell you the truth. It's just a little pin to mark the occasion. And this year, there's usually a big affair that John Fry hosts at one of the hotels.
John Fry is the president of Drexel University. And how did that relationship come about, that now the Academy of Natural Sciences, which has been on the Parkway for how long?
Well, it's been on the Parkway since the late 1800s. It's been, the Academy is the oldest natural history museum in the Western Hemisphere.
Oh.
It's been around for, 1812, wasn't it?
Yeah, we just celebrated our bicentennial.
Oh my
so
goodness.
1812 was the founding date of the Academy.
And if I got it correct, we've been on the Parkway since around 1870.
1876.
1876.
But I don't think President Fry had to buy the Academy.
No,
it
was we were trying to find, the Academy was trying to find different avenues to expand our reach. For that and other reasons, we thought of where could we sort of form a real partnership, a strengthening partnership. And the president at the Academy, George Gebhardt, knew John Fry. The two of them met. They both loved the idea. John loved the idea. And next thing we know, they signed an agreement that we're now integrated as part of Drexel University. And as part of that, integration, we formed a new science department over at Drexel, the Department of Biodiversity, Earth, and Environmental Sciences.
Wait, say that again slowly. The new Department of Biodiversity,
Earth, and Environmental Sciences.
But the acronym is easy to remember, BEES.
BEES.
So the new department is called BEES.
The BEES department.
B-E-E-S.
S.
For Environmental Sciences.
Biodiversity,
Earth,
and
Environmental Sciences.
BEES, bzz, okay.
And I became the department head of the new department.
You went to the men's room and they elected you when you were out of the room, right? Isn't that the way it works?
For
chairs?
some strange reason, I raised my hand and said I would do it.
Oh, a martyr, a martyr.
Right,
I love it. I love it.
So it's been great for the integration, especially with the bees department. We now have, as Greg's probably seen, students throughout the collections and the laboratories, which we didn't have 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay.
The affiliation began in 2011, I believe?
2012 is when it really kicked in.
So David has been, guiding that since then, and of course George Gebhardt and John Fry.
Right.
But
Really?
the bees program is really the exciting part of the affiliation.
Well, now let's find out what Greg Cowper does at the Academy of Natural Sciences.
Well, I have probably the best job at the Academy. I take care of the insect collection. I'm one of a staff member that helps take care of the insect collection. We have the oldest insect collection in the New World at the Academy, the Titian Ramsay Peale insect collection. Of course, he's the son of Charles Wilson Peale, the famous portrait painter. Probably collected between 1820 earlier maybe and 1880. So it's pretty doggone old. We have about 4 million insects in the collection.
Did Yang Ming donate any brooches for your collection? I'm sorry, I had to ask that.
Ooh, that's a low blow.
It's still one of my favorite restaurants. When they reopen, we'll go back. Go ahead.
Cockroaches.
I know. I'm familiar with that news story. We do have the strong point of the Academy's insect collection is Orthoptera. We have the best collection of Orthoptera in the world. Bonnie, Orthoptera is the crickets, the grasshoppers, and the katydids.
Jiminy cricket. Oh.
Exactly. And in the larger scope of thing, it also includes Blatoidea, which are the cockroaches. And
Blatoidea?
And Mantoidea and the phasmids. So cockroaches, walking sticks, and
oh, I love walking sticks. They're in. Every once in a while, I see one in my garden.
oh,
They're
you're
like
lucky. It's a wonderful insect.
It's supposed to be good luck. Like long green grasshoppers is what they look like.
Right.
Yeah.
That's true.
How did you? And that your science is called entomology.
Right. Right. That's with an O, E-N-T-O.
And where did you go to school?
I went to school in the Midwest, Oklahoma State University in Stillwater, Oklahoma, and then Wichita State University in Wichita, Kansas.
What did you study?
I studied biology and psychology.
And how'd you get into insects? Were you
Well,
one of those kids that collected fireflies in jars when you were little?
I was. And of course, I always released them too. But
Well,
yes,
you're
I was one of those kids that collected probably since I was about 4 years old. I share that with all my colleagues at the Academy and the entomology department. We've all been collecting since we were kids. And who would have guessed it could have been a vocation too? So it's kind of neat to really be doing something that you started out as a kid doing, and now you're making your living at it, and really making a difference in terms of stewarding the collection into the next century and taking care of everything. It's so wonderful to be an entomologist because you're really walking in the footsteps of all these great scientists and collectors and gentlemen that were on expeditions, women also.
I'm glad you added that because I was going to club you to
Oh,
the
there's some
ground.
fantastic women scientists that we have represented in the
Wait,
entomology
not only
collection.
do we have fantastic women scientists, but Dr. Velinsky happens to be at the Ruth Patrick Institute. Tell us about Ruth Patrick.
Well, it's the Ruth Patrick Environmental Center. And it was founded by Dr. Ruth Patrick. At first, it started out as the Department of Limnology back in the late 40s. And in 1983, in one of Ruth's retirements, and I think she had a number of different retirements, they renamed it the Patrick Center for Environmental Research. And I became director of that in around 2002 with a long line of, she was the director, then there's a couple others, but it's been fun. It's been very exciting to work in this environmental center that really tries to get information, data to make a difference in the environment.
Well, today, the environment and sustainability, those are the buzzwords.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the president just got back from Alaska with pretty grim news about the melting of the icebergs. Oh my goodness. And how those fools could deny global warming, climate change.
Those fools.
Yes.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
We won't name names.
No
Donald
names,
Trump.
no names.
We won't name names.
Leave it alone.
How do you educate students what their role is, what their responsibility is for sustaining the universe?
Well, I mean, as part of the academic role we now have at the Academy and with Drexel, we have a number of classes that we have the students take. And also, and importantly, especially with the linkage with the Academy, we get the students over at the Academy to work with the scientists to study what are some of the collections that might have changed in a certain area over time. And they could see.
Oh, you can open the drawers and you can see what a critter looked like, say, 50 years ago.
And are those critters still there? And what critters, new critters came in? What invasive species might have come into an area? With the collections, and not just entomology, with ichthyology, fish, with botany, bird, ornithology.
Well, the passenger pigeon, every time I think of that they would shoot the birds for fun, it drives me crazy.
And there were thousands and thousands, yeah.
And that's it. And I don't care what experiments they do with DNA, they're not going to be able to bring back the passenger pigeon, are they?
I certainly doubt it. So this is not a Jurassic Park type thing.
It's probably a fool's errand anyway.
Yeah,
I mean, the habitat that they populated is gone, and you know, who wants 3 days of birds, you know, pooping on your car?
There you go.
So it's probably not going to happen, and I hope it doesn't.
So in a way, it's now we're getting the students engaged in the environmental side that we offer at the Academy on the collection side, and they get to see hear from us and, sound out ideas about climate change, what's going to happen in the future, and how to make a better, sustainable life for themselves. And we have a lot of students in that.
And it's not only how organisms look. You know, you said pulling out the drawer and seeing what it looked 50 years ago. The main point is, in all the collections, and entomology also, there's data associated with each one of those specimens. A typical insect in our collection has 2 or 3, up to maybe 5, 6, 7 labels on it. Each one of those labels has habitat information, collecting information, the collector, him or herself, the date it was collected, where it was collected. All that can be mined for all these problems that are now presenting themselves to us.
And there was just something in the paper very recently about some little bug that was black and red, little red spots on it, and it like eats corn and eats leaves, and it's destructive, and it came from Japan. Either it rode on somebody's suitcase or somebody accidentally brought it in. And what do we do when we find out that there is some kind of destructive creature that's, the ash trees were so magnificent. There aren't any ash trees anymore. I live in a historically certified section of Lower Merion, the English Village. When I moved in the 60s, we had all these magnificent ash trees. One by one, they succumbed to whatever ate. What killed the ash trees? Do you know?
Well, it's an invasive beetle from Asia called the emerald ash borer.
Oh.
And it's fine for things to move around into different parts of the world, but the problem with that is our ash trees didn't evolve with this creature, with this beetle, and therefore they're not evolutionarily protected against the beetle. In the actual places where they really live, they're not pests of ash trees. They're just not decimating ash forests.
They don't die where they've been living side by side for centuries.
Right.
With the this.
They've adapted. The trees have adapted to these guys around there.
You said one thing interesting when you said, those fools in terms of climate change deniers. But part of that climate change is human impact, and the human impact on the climate. That's what a lot of people didn't want to say, was that we were responsible. It's the same with those pests and invasive species and new organisms being moved around the world. It's really humans that are doing it. You ship something from Japan to Allentown, Pennsylvania, or you ship something from Asia to New Jersey, or any scenario like that.
Something in the crate, and it escapes, and out it goes.
Well, every once in a while, something hitches a ride on bananas from South America, spiders and things, and then you have panic at a supermarket because somebody reaches for bananas and they get a scorpion or whatever it is. I don't know what kind of spiders hitch a ride on bananas.
That's why I'm always looking through the bananas every time I go to the supermarket. I'm hoping to find something that really shouldn't be there.
I didn't get a chance to ask Dr. David Velinsky, where did you go to college? Where did you grow up?
Grew up in Plainfield, New Jersey. I was, as Greg was collecting bugs in jars, I was one of those kids that had the chemistry sets in the basements. Back when there were real chemistry sets, you could actually make things.
And blow something up.
I'm not going down that path. I was told not to say that. I said, my father always thought I was making bombs in the basement, which I probably was. But I always loved chemistry and loved the ocean, beaches when we were growing up. So I married the two and eventually became a chemical oceanographer. And I went to school down in Florida and eventually—
Where'd you go to school?
Florida Institute of Technology.
Okay.
And then I went to Old Dominion University for my PhD.
That's Virginia, right?
Yes, in Norfolk, Virginia.
Okay. And how'd you get to Philadelphia?
A job. They offered me a job at the academy, as simple as that, and as the geochemist in the Patrick Center.
But you live in the suburbs. You live
Yeah,
in
I live in Haverford right now.
You live in the main line.
Yes.
Okay. And we forgive you. You live in Philadelphia, Greg, right? Okay.
Yes, I live in, as it's become to be called, No Libs, Northern Liberties.
Oh, were you a pioneer there?
Well, the late 80s.
That was a pioneer.
Well, I mean, there was some
pioneer.
real, I wouldn't call myself a pioneer. My wife and I moved in there in the late 80s, like 1988, but I mean, there were pioneers that were the real deal, going back to the 60s and 70s. I'm talking about, alternative types. I mean, obviously the neighborhood people have been there forever, and a wonderful group of people, and
Very diverse.
Very diverse, and some of my neighbors are, the original inhabitants of Northern Liberties moving forward from 1900. And of course, the American way, their kids, they wanted something better for their kids, so they didn't want them, taking jobs. It was basically a meatpacking area, manufacturing area. They wanted something better for them, so they all moved away, and the parents got left there. And then the properties kind of went to, or the area went to seed, so to speak. And then, finally it has made this fantastic renaissance.
Speaking of renaissance, Pope Francis is coming to town. You may have heard something about that.
A little bit of that, yes.
And you guys
Pope mania.
are doing something. You've got the clergy and the Academy's collections in the library gallery. Your Carolyn Bellardo, your PR gal, sent me some information. Tell us about the clergy and the Academy's collections, and because you're marking the World Meeting of Families as well as the Pope's visit. Mm-hmm. So what you got on display?
Well, so this is an exhibit that went up Monday, and it's going to be on display in the library until late October the 23rd. So it's going to
that's good.
Go through the Pope's visit, the World Meeting of Families visit, and then hopefully just the general populace of Philadelphia will come and see it too. But we wanted to celebrate, of course we looked for like a religious angle because of the Pope's visit. And we wanted to celebrate the clergy's contribution to the Academy's collections. So we have many, many ologies at the Academy. Ornithology, malacology, entomology, ichthyology, those kind of ologies. All of them have these wonderful collections. We have a total of 18 million specimens.
18 million?
18 million.
I bet you know all of them by heart, don't you?
Well, I know a little bit more of them by heart after curating this exhibit, because by getting together with the collection managers from these different collections and other interested parties at the Academy, other colleagues, came up with 12, 13, 14 clergy that had contributed specimens to all those different collections that we have.
Can you tell us who some of these clergy were?
Sure, we had, I discovered clergy from Presbyterians, Lutherans, Moravians, Methodists, Anglicans, of course Catholics.
Any rabbis?
Absolutely a rabbi.
Yay, okay.
Now there's a rabbi in the exhibit in this way. The archivist at the Academy, Jennifer Vess, literally mined all our membership cards of everyone that's been a member of the Academy from 1812 when the Academy began
1812.
to 1930. Those are that's the pool of data we had. And she came up with over 60 clergy members in that group. And we have all those cards displayed, and there's, there's nuns, there's rabbis, there's ministers.
Imams?
I don't think there's an imam, no.
Well, we'll have to work on that.
I know. But, that culture was a very scientific culture at different points in its history, and certainly could have contributed to the Academy in some way that I'm unfamiliar with.
Fantastic.
So,
But I want to ask David, how do you incorporate technology with dinosaurs? I mean, I consider myself a dinosaur because I have to read a physical newspaper every morning. And there aren't too many of us left that buy newspapers, read newspapers. It's not the same thing when you see it online. It doesn't look, even when they try to make it look the same, it's not the same thing at all. And you can't cut it and paste it and show it to somebody.
Right.
So tell us how you're incorporating technology into everything that you do with this biodiversity.
Oh, well, I mean, one of the new things that we're trying to do, and we're doing it at the Academy with the collections, is digitizing. Is taking, and not just with your Polaroid camera and sticking the posters, but trying to use the top of the line cameras and imaging software and imaging cameras to take really great images of these parts of the collections. I know Gary Rosenberg's doing this for the Shell collection, malacology.
great point.
Oh.
And so researchers in another country can just come through the internet, come into the Academy and look at a specimen that they would have had to have spent all that carbon to get to the Academy on an airplane. Then now they could see it and actually take that image and rotate it around to 360 to see the whole thing. That's how we're trying to marry the technology that's developing now to what we have in the collections.
What's the website that people can access your collections on?
Well,
Do we have that on the screen?
it's
the
just
website?
www.ansp.org, and then from there.
ANSP stands for Academy of Natural Sciences. What's the P stand for?
Oh, well, it doesn't stand for Wayne. It stands for Philadelphia.
Oops,
It used
okay.
to be the Academy of Natural Sciences of Philadelphia. And
ANSP.org.
And
Okay.
through that, you'll find the research page. It'll
Right.
say,
Ah.
explore, and you'll see research. Just click into that, and then just start exploring into there.
And images is just one avenue, as David says. Like in entomology, we just did a species level index of the entire collection.
Right.
So we went to every drawer, we call them drawers, it's like a display case, and just captured the species level data in there. And now we'd like to take it to the next level where you capture the actual data on the pins of those insects, so you have specimen level data. And that's really where it's going in addition to the images.
And moving this further is that a lot of our specimens, we have tissue samples where we do DNA analysis.
Oh, you do?
To look at evolutionary patterns, species
Wow.
identification. I would imagine it's probably happening, I'm probably misspeaking, but that information would be on the internet in the future.
Yeah.
So you can actually do that and compare it against what you may be doing somewhere else.
What about the use of television screens or whatever? It's been a few years, I'll come back soon, but it's been a few years since I've been to the Academy of Natural Sciences, although I wave to the dinosaur statue outside every time I go around the circle, and I love that dinosaur sculpture. But are there interactive displays where people can touch a screen and they
Not as much as we like, but there are. There
Okay.
are. I mean, we want more. That's something we'd like to
because
develop.
the Philadelphia Academy of Art, the Academy of Art in Philly, they now have iPads for little kids, and they give it to you, and you stand in a room, and you press a number or a letter, and it puts you in front of the painting, and the voice tells you everything about that painting. I was very impressed.
Yeah.
There's some neat stuff going on like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
I had a 10-year-old assist me because I couldn't figure out how to use the iPad, but she was terrific.
No, we don't have as much technology as the Art Museum, but the dioramas for the little kids are still spectacular. I mean, I see little kids right outside my office going up to the tiger diorama, and they're freaked out because they're like thinking it's like gonna jump out of it, And last year, I forget what, maybe it was Members Night. We did it for last year. We actually opened up one of the dioramas where you could walk behind and have your picture taken inside the diorama.
Isn't that clever?
That was very. I didn't actually see it, but I was not there that day. But we're going to probably do that again.
Pretty neat
Oh,
way of
that's
displaying it.
take on the
that's
diorama.
amazing.
To get more interactive with them.
And they also developed a way to use non-caustic and easily removable paints to where you could paint on the glass of the dioramas. And don't forget the dioramas for, 1920, 1930, that was the interactive technology of then. And it's so beautiful and wonderful. We don't want to lose those, and we want to talk that up, and we want people to come see the museum for those in addition to the other offerings we have. But the dioramas are, a snapshot. People couldn't travel to Tibet. They couldn't travel to Africa. They couldn't travel to the
This is the way they see it.
southwestern desert. So you see this little snippet of that habitat with those animals in it. It's really breathtaking.
Whenever there's a hot movie, like Jurassic Park, which you mentioned, is there a run on tickets for the Academy of Natural Sciences? Because you've got dinosaurs and dinosaur bones on display.
It's a good question. I don't know the answer to that one. I don't know.
I would assume so. I would assume so.
I would think that we always, for the dinosaur side, we always get a lot of kids coming in because of the dinosaurs. I mean, that is one of our more popular exhibit halls, is Dinosaur Hall.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
From my time period, when we were discussing collecting insects, there was the other faction that were learning about dinosaurs, and I was drawing them, and so that's really a neat entryway for kids to find out about science, and then pick a specific discipline within science or within natural history.
What's the most popular exhibit at the Academy of Natural Sciences?
Jeez.
Oh, I would say the butterfly exhibit, and one of our permanent ones is the butterfly is very popular. And Dinosaur Hall is
right, and the dioramas.
The diorama.
And then we
outside in.
Oh, outside in.
Yeah.
Jeez.
What's outside in?
That's upstairs on the fourth floor. That's where we have live animals, where kids can come in and interact with live animals.
Wow.
It's like a little mini zoo, you might say.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And because we're finding that the public and kids love to see when we take animals out onto the floor, be it a parrot, an iguana.
Do you take them out into the community as well?
Yes, we do. Yes,
You visit schools and things?
Yes, the education exhibits department takes them out.
That's so important.
So that's a whole nother component to the Academy, is the education component.
Right.
Oh, yes.
There's a whole education department, a whole wonderful education staff that, they're there when the scientists go home, and they're the ones that are bringing out the animals and showing them to the kids and to the public, and
taking them out to schools.
Taking them to schools.
And they're the ones that are going to have to sleep over at the Academy when the Pope's here. Because we're going to be closed, but we still need to have staff to stay there.
Sure, take care of them.
To take care of them.
And you'll all stand outside and wave to the Pope as they drive him past to get him to the Art Museum. I guess he's going to do a mass outside.
I think he's doing a mass at the Art Museum, and he's also doing a speech over at Independence Hall.
And he's doing a mass at St. Peter
at the
Basilica.
Yeah, and then he's going to do something, but I think it's only for seminarians at St. Charles Borromeo.
Probably,
in the chapel. Well, our guests today have been Greg Cowper, who's big on entomology, Dr. David Velinsky, who's big on biodiversity. Velinsky.
Thank you.
Velinsky, who's very, very big on biodiversity at the Academy of Natural Sciences of Drexel University. Thank you very much, and we'll see everybody next week.
You're quite welcome.
Thanks, Bonnie. It was fun.
Thank you very much.